Side by side with Justin Trudeau for years, but today, in a big blow to the Prime Minister's office, Gerald Butts quits as the secretary to the PM. It's the latest in the swirling scandal involving former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould and Canadian construction giant SNC-Lavalin. In his resignation letter, Butts denied accusations he pressured Wilson-Raybould to help SNC avoid criminal prosecution. The obvious question now is, so why did he quit? Katie Simpson has more now from Ottawa.
Jerry Butts was widely considered the most powerful person in the Prime Minister's office, aside from Justin Trudeau himself. As principal secretary, he had policy shaping and decision-making authority, second only to one. In a complete surprise that has stunned many in Ottawa, Butts announced he has resigned right in the middle of the SNC-Lavalin controversy. While he denies any wrongdoing, he cited the existence of reports that he inappropriately pressured the former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould into killing the prosecution of SNC-Lavalin, the Quebec engineering firm, as part of the reason for his departure. Suggesting the allegations are a distraction, he said it is in the best interests of the office and it's important work for him to step away. MPs return to Ottawa tomorrow, and this resignation will only add fuel to the SNC-Lavalin dumpster fire the Prime Minister's office is now trying to manage. The opposition was already demanding Butts testify before the Justice Committee about this affair, but now with his resignation, those calls are only going to get louder. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
The relationship between Butts and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau goes back decades. Here they are, back when they were students at McGill University. Some political observers going as far as to say there would be no Prime Minister Trudeau without Gerald Butts. No on-camera statements from Trudeau today. He's expected to speak publicly tomorrow, but just after the news broke today, the PM tweeted this. He wrote, "Gerald Butts served this government and our country with integrity, sage advice, and devotion. I want to thank him for his service and continued friendship." And just an hour ago, Conservative leader Andrew Scheer tweeted, quote, "This latest resignation shows a government in chaos as Trudeau desperately tries to cover up this scandal. Canadians are rightly concerned about the allegations of political interference in a criminal prosecution. Trudeau needs to stop hiding behind other people and come clean." And here's what NDP leader Jagmeet Singh had to say today.
What we're seeing now is something that looks like a pretty surprising potential admission of guilt. And at this point, we are bolstering our argument for a public inquiry. It proves more than ever that we need to get to the bottom of this, and the independence of a public inquiry is the way to go.
And that Justice Committee meeting Katie mentioned in her piece, that's taking place tomorrow. It starts around 3:30 p.m. and we will have complete coverage for you across all CBC platforms. The Canadian Embassy has reopened in Port-au-Prince today. It's the latest sign of calm returning to Haiti after 11 days of violent anti-government protests. Haitians have been angry about severe shortages of supplies and accuse their government of corruption. And despite calls for demonstrations to resume today, as Paul Hunter reports from the capital, for now, the streets have the appearance of relative calm.
Yeah, I'm at a school in central Port-au-Prince, which on a school day would normally be full of school children, but they are being kept home again today as their parents worry about a return to the rioting and street violence this city saw last week and some of the week before. But if we step outside to the Main Street area, which last week would have been empty, you see almost a kind of return to normalcy, almost. All kinds of businesses are still closed throughout Port-au-Prince, but here at least a semblance of business as usual as people try to find food, the little food that is available and the little bits of water that are available to sustain themselves if violence returns, which of course is the fear, because Haitians remain enraged at their government over allegations of government corruption that allegedly diverted hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 10 years or so that was supposed to go into making this country a better place, instead, as I say, falling to government corruption, and Haitians remain angry about that, hence the fear of a return to violence on the streets this week. We'll see what happens on that front. In the meantime, business as usual of a kind at least in parts of Port-au-Prince. Paul Hunter.
And it's been a dramatic day for the families of 6 Ontario nurses stranded in Haiti. The women were part of a team of Canadians volunteering just west of the capital. And Farah Morales sat down with the family of one of those nurses today and captured the moment they finally received the news they've been waiting for.
The past few days have looked a lot like this at the Ramgotra household.
Remain enraged at their government.
The family parked in front of the television, nervously watching tense scenes unfold in Haiti.
We've been trying to keep a stiff upper lip, especially with the kids and stuff. We're trying to make sure, we're saying, listen, they're safe and something will be worked out. But, inside my heart, I knew it's not a good situation and was concerned.
Jaspal Ramgotra's wife, Charlene, has been trapped in Haiti since last Wednesday. She's a nurse working with the group Hope Grows, an Ontario charity that runs a healthcare and feeding program for orphaned and abandoned children. The roads leading to the airport from the compound where she's working have been blocked by violent anti-government protests.
It does feel surreal being in this situation when you read about it and hear about it on the news. But now we're thinking, geez, we're part of that.
It's all tense moments, right? Just one moment after another. And that's the only way to get through it.
It was really worrying. I mean, you'd get more articles in every day as well, and just seeing it.
It was like, well, she's not coming home today, but she'll probably be home like later on.
Later, it was Friday, and then it was still going on, so it was just waiting.
So we're just waiting to hear news that the helicopters arrived and they're on the flight towards the airport.
There goes your phone again, yeah.
Then, in the middle of our interview, the news Jaspal had been waiting for since last week.
They see it.
Yeah.
That's the overwhelming news we wanted to hear. So, it's been hard.
How are you feeling now that you've gotten this news? She's on this helicopter.
Overwhelmed. We knew she'd be, I don't know. I kept saying all the time, she'll be safe, she'll be okay. It'll all work out. We've got to do what I have to do. And now it's coming to fruition, so pretty pleased. Tears of joy.
This is the helicopter that finally landed at the nurses' compound to take the 8 women on the approximately 65-kilometer journey to Port-au-Prince Airport.
Very excited. I just had a chill. Just had a chill go through me.
So I guess reuniting the whole family is going to be a family day we won't forget.
Definitely a family day they won't forget. Glad to see those tears of joy there. Farah, of course, joining us now. So we know they made it to the airport. What do we know about where they're at now?
Well, Dwight, some more good news for that family. All 8 of those women boarded another plane from Port-au-Prince to Montreal. So that was a few hours ago, and we know that Charlene Ramgotra will be arriving at Toronto's Pearson Airport late tonight. But one of the issues that we heard from these women and some other people who are in Haiti is the lack of help that they got from the Canadian Embassy in Haiti. As you heard earlier, it has been closed for some time, and these women actually had to start a GoFundMe page to raise enough money to rent a helicopter privately. We did ask Global Affairs about this, and it maintains that it has been helping hundreds of Canadians get out this weekend, and that it continues to help other Canadians who are stranded at the moment.
Yeah, but these ladies had to do a GoFundMe, and they're down there volunteering their time to try to help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So glad they're out safety. Thank you for that, Farah.
Me too.
The man charged with first-degree murder in the death of his 11-year-old daughter remains in hospital tonight. Rupesh Rajkumar is being treated for a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was arrested on Thursday, not long after police discovered Ria Rajkumar's body inside a Brampton residence. Police have not released the girl's cause of death. A vigil was held for her over the weekend. Another will take place tomorrow night in Brampton. Her funeral is planned for Wednesday. The jury could soon wrap its 5th day of deliberations in the trial of the man who fired shots in the Eaton Center in 2012. Christopher Husbands is charged with 2 counts of murder and several counts of aggravated assault. Greg Ross is live at the University Avenue Courthouse. And Greg, it's been another long day for that jury.
That's right, Dwight. This jury has been at it all day. This after interrupting deliberations yesterday because they had some questions for the judge about the circumstances in which a person can be found criminally not responsible. They specifically wanted to know if the physical act of shooting could be separated from the outcome of each shot fired. They also wanted to re-listen to certain parts of the testimony. Husband's lawyer says that he cannot be held criminally responsible because he was suffering from PTSD, but the Crown alleges that this was an act of revenge. This is the second trial for Christopher Husbands in relation to the Eaton Centre shooting. In 2014, a jury found Husbands guilty on 2 counts of second-degree murder, but that conviction was overturned on appeal after it was ruled the judge in that trial improperly rejected a request from the defense in relation to jury selection. In both trials, the jury was given the task of determining Husbands' state of mind when he opened fire in a crowded food court at the Eaton Centre in June of 2012. The 29-year-old is facing a number of charges, including 2 counts of second-degree murder and 5 counts of aggravated assault. Husbands admitted to the shooting that killed 22-year-old Nixon Nurmalandran and 24-year-old Ahmed Hassan. Several others were injured, including a 13-year-old boy who suffered a gunshot wound to the head and a pregnant woman who was trampled in the chaos following the shooting. Husband's defense attorney argued he is not criminally responsible because he was suffering from PTSD at the time. Just months before the shooting, Husband's lawyers say he was attacked by a group of men who bound him with duct tape, pistol whipped him, and stabbed him numerous times, leaving him for dead. The defense claims Husband's PTSD was triggered when he saw 2 of his attackers at the mall, and as a result, he was not in control of his actions. The Crown alleged that Husbands knew exactly what he was doing, claiming he was out for street justice in relation to the attack against him. Now we're told that the jury will continue deliberating until about 9 o'clock tonight. If they can't come to a verdict by then they'll remain sequestered for yet another night, and it's expected that they'll be back here at the University Avenue Courthouse again tomorrow to resume deliberations, Dwight.
Thank you, Greg. The 2 men found guilty of plotting to derail a VIA train are asking for a new trial. Lawyers Fareed Jasser and Shiab Essagayer will argue the judge who oversaw the case made several errors, including rejecting their client's requests as to the method of jury selection. Both were sentenced to life in prison. The challenge will be heard in a Toronto court tomorrow. Here comes the convoy. A large group of protesters is in Northern Ontario today en route to Ottawa. They are demanding the federal government build more oil pipelines. But is it about more than that? Some are saying the group holds anti-immigrant and extreme right-wing views. We'll have that story for you in just a few minutes. You may have woken up today to a fresh dusting of snow. Overnight, the city saw just a little bit of the white stuff, although there was 10 centimeters predicted. We didn't get that much, but now an extreme cold weather alert is in effect for our city. Temperatures will dip to -16 with a wind chill in the -20s overnight. In anticipation of messy roads, salt trucks were out late last night. With storm after storm hitting the GTA, the city has been plowing and salting quite a bit this year. Adrian Chung joins us live from Dundas and Roxton. Now, Adrian, some residents and councillors say the city needs to do more.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm standing on one of those little hills of snow and ice that you can really find on any side street in Toronto, often blocking off some parking spaces. And even though the snow has stopped falling, this kind of snow and ice causing some problems have been around for weeks, really since that first snowfall. And to some city councillors, this is a sign that the city is failing on its winter maintenance promises. The digging out from a fresh coat of snow starts all over again. But at this stage of winter, you'll have to put your back into it. Even on a family day weekend, you're working, you're out working.
Well, yeah, money's money.
Some tried to make the best of it.
Get it practicing over here.
But for many, silver linings are hard to find. Leftover snow makes for slippery sidewalks, clogs parking spaces and bike lanes. A group of cyclists on Dundas taking the matters into their own hands.
We had a great thaw, we had now a freeze. It's still the same story. We're wondering, will we see this till spring?
All this leftover snow and ice on the roads is really wasted space for the city. Normally 4 or 5 cars can be parked right here. Now no cars are getting over these ice humps. And the bike lane that runs right next to it, it's pretty much non-existent.
I believe the city can do a better job at accepting that we are a Canadian city. And we need to not only make sure that our roads and bike lanes are plowed effectively, but there are so many sidewalks in the core of our city that aren't plowed at all.
The city funds winter maintenance to tackle this every year. The storm in late January, where 30 centimeters of snow fell in a day, cost the city $4 million to clear. And the storm earlier in February, a shower of snow, freezing rain, and ice, a $3 million cleanup. This all up against the city's winter operations budget of nearly $113 million this year. Some city councilors say that number isn't enough if Toronto wants fully cleared roads.
We could look to cities like Montreal and Edmonton and cities around the world that understand that there are, cities in the north that have a lot of snow. We don't seem to recognize that we are a Canadian city that gets often a lot of snowfall. There are some years that are better than others, but we should be prepared and resourced to, tackle the worst kind of storms we get. Because when we don't.
Now, Councillor Gary Crawford, he is Toronto's budget chief. He says that he's going to move a motion next month to take a bigger look at what can be done for winter maintenance. But in looking at the city's books, what is planned for next year, in addition to this year, is actually the same in terms of winter maintenance. So if they want this to change, the city will either have to find new dollars or likely they'll have to make some decisions. Dwight, I'll send it back to you.
Exactly. Thank you for that, Adrian. Okay, so we had all this snow, and we know it's going to be cold tonight. It's been a rough month, call it, no?
It has been a rough month, Dwight. It's been kind of a rough winter.
Yes, but I felt like February was harsh. What's the rest of this month looking like?
Yeah, I thought we'd have a look. It's time for a little bit of uplifting news, if we can get some of that out of our weather forecasts. One of the nice things about February, okay, it's one of the hardest months. At least it's the shortest month that we're looking at here. And this is what we have as we look ahead to what is left. I looked at temperatures, our daytime highs that will be above seasonal. It looks like 80%. So 8 of the next 10 days, we're going to see our temperatures, and in many cases, not only above seasonal, but actually above freezing for our daytime highs. So that's some good news. Stormy days, we still have, it looks like about 3. I say 3+ because some of these override from one day into an overnight into the next day. And one of those, another sloppy storm that's coming in, is coming for Wednesday. I'm going to talk more about that a little later in the show because we do look like we're going to see some ice pelts and some freezing rain with that one. But still only 3 more for the rest of this month. And then more sun and less cloud. How many days look like that? Well, it looks like 6 or a little more than 6 days that we're going to have like that. Kind of like we had after the snowfall this morning, what we saw with the rest of the day. So that will be nice as well. What's not so nice is overnight tonight we have the extreme cold weather alert in place. -16 on the thermometer, but in terms of how it will feel, like -20 to -25. Tomorrow afternoon below seasonal by about 3 degrees for our afternoon high. Still lots of sunshine though, so a pretty day, feeling like -9. Now after that we get into the storm coming in on Wednesday. There is a special weather statement, Dwight. I'll talk all about that when I return.
We'll need the info. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
A ton of people out here on the frozen ice to enjoy this family day. Most of them are ice fishing. Coming up in the show, I'll tell you why newcomers to Canada are enjoying this Canadian tradition.
The first trucks of a cross-country protest convoy have rolled into a small town west of Ottawa. They are primarily angry about the Trudeau government's energy policy, demanding an end to its carbon tax and action on pipeline construction. Olivia Stefanovich caught up with the drivers.
This is where the United We Roll convoy is merging. Arn Prior, a community outside of Ottawa, where a group of trucks from the west and a group of trucks from the east are connecting this evening. They're making a pit stop here at this truck stop. Inside, the restaurant owner tells me that she's been preparing for more than a month to make sure there's enough food and parking spaces for everyone who's expected here. The goal, to raise awareness about the struggles facing Canada's energy sector, to call for more jobs and progress on pipelines.
It's costing them a lot to come out here. And the least we can do is, drive an hour and a half to come here and show them support.
Along the way, hundreds of people have gathered along the sides of the Trans-Canada Highway to cheer on the convoy. But as much as there is support, there is also concern about what this campaign stands for. The Western group says it's pro-pipeline, it's for the energy sector. But the Eastern group, although it does say it is for the pipelines and it does support Canada's energy sector, it also wants to see changes to Canada's immigration policies, specifically closed borders.
Okay, first of all, I'm an immigrant. I came to Canada 30 years ago, the legal way, not the illegal way, not the way all the refugees are coming in right now.
The organizers of the convoy say they're not affiliated with any one political party. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer has tweeted his support, saying he would fix the so-called liberal mess and bring back jobs. The leader of the People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier, has also tweeted his support and plans to speak at a rally on Parliament Hill that the convoy is organizing tomorrow. The organizers say they want to meet with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. It's unclear if that will happen. Either way, they plan to make a lot of noise and get his attention. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Arnprior, Ontario.
They say they lost thousands to fake experts on the radio, and they're not alone. A group of investors say they're out millions thanks to what they heard on the airwaves and then acted on. Coming up next, our Go Public investigation that digs into the company's history of duping investors.
I trusted what I was hearing on the radio.
I never once believed that it was an ad.
The whole area of paid content is an ethical quagmire.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
A group of would-be investors say fake experts on local radio stations conned them out of millions, saying the fraudsters posed as investment experts on shows that sounded like news but were actually infomercials. Go Public's investigation found those so-called experts have a history of duping investors in the U.S. before hitting the airwaves here in Canada. Rosa Marcatelli has more.
I'm still in awe. I'm just not going to lie.
Tracy Conrad and her husband listened religiously for months before handing their savings over to what they thought were investment experts being interviewed on the radio. Shows that sounded like news, she says, with radio personalities who covered the news.
Insightful, expert advice about money matters.
This show is about investing in money, with money, and making money.
The bombshell came from the provincial regulator, the Ontario Securities Commission, saying it suspects those so-called experts were using fake names and had a fake company.
I trusted what I was hearing on the radio.
Turns out they also weren't allowed to operate in Ontario. Conrad says one call by the radio stations to the regulator would have caught that.
And I would have all my money still.
She and her husband say they lost $15,000. Dozens of Ontario radio listeners say they lost a total of more than $6 million. That's according to a class action lawsuit filed against the so-called experts and Chorus Entertainment. Chorus owns the radio shows that featured the fraudsters on programs like Ask the Experts and The Global Market. The allegations haven't been proven in court. Chorus says the programs were infomercials and clearly identified as such through disclaimers used before, after, and during the program, saying it intends to defend itself in court and is confident it acted diligently and responsibly, removing the programs after hearing concerns. Listener Cheryl Hansky says she lost $20,000 to the same fraudsters after listening to radio shows on stations owned by another media company, Bell Media.
I never once believed that it was an ad.
Bell says its shows, too, were paid programs, and when it became aware of legitimate concerns, it removed them. The Ontario Securities Commission believes the men who called themselves Stuart Price and Martin Schwartz on radio are actually Mark Singer and Bernard Sevilla. Go Public found Singer and Sevilla have a combined history of theft and investment fraud in the U.S., long before allegedly targeting Canadian investors.
It seems the men have disappeared along with the money, not returning messages from Go Public or investors. In fact, the company's phone line has been disconnected, and its website is down.
This media ethicist says the situation is another example of the blurred line between news and advertising.
The whole area of paid content is an ethical quagmire.
Those who invested say the radio shows have gone silent on the topic.
To this day, they say nothing.
Never explaining why the so-called experts are no longer on the air. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
It's been more than 10 weeks, but tomorrow the Ontario Legislature resumes sitting and there are some big changes ahead. Healthcare and education, the big two, will give you a preview of what to expect next.
integrity, he has transparency, and he's an absolute champion.
The buck stops with the Premier on this issue, Speaker.
They're gone, they're done. They told me straight up, there's nothing we can do.
I've never seen a government roll over so quickly.
Have you missed this? If you have, get ready for more fireworks when Queen's Park resumes tomorrow. The Ford government has some big plans in store for Ontario. They include a first budget, an overhaul of the healthcare system, and possibly even more students per classroom. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley with the details now on what to expect.
The Ford government's first budget will undoubtedly be one of the big moments here at Queen's Park. The date hasn't been announced yet, but it's a safe bet to say the budget will come sometime in the next couple months. Now, it will reveal exactly what sort of spending cuts the PCs have in mind. It will also tell us exactly when the government intends to balance the budget. That's because by law, they have to put in a timetable for getting rid of the deficit. The finance minister until now has been rather vague about when that's going to happen.
You know, I like to use my Goldilocks reference to balancing the budget. It won't be too soon because, quite frankly, nobody would believe it. It won't be too long because anybody can do that. It will be just right.
A shakeup is clearly on the way for Ontario's health system. My sources tell me the Ford government will dissolve the local health integration networks and replace them with a central super agency to oversee healthcare administration. Then down the road, there will be mergers. Look for different hospitals, long-term care facilities, and home care agencies to join up.
I'm not going in there hacking and slashing and with a chainsaw cutting it up. It's not going to happen under administration. We're going to find efficiencies. We're going to be responsible.
Changes are also in the works for the school system. The education minister is looking at larger class sizes in the elementary years. In kindergarten, the government is considering getting rid of teachers and having only early childhood educators in kindergarten classes. And we'll also learn what the Ford government has in mind for changing the sex ed curriculum. Finally, expect to see some sort of resolution to the Ron Taverner controversy. The Toronto Police Superintendent is a close friend of Premier Doug Ford. The Integrity Commissioner is investigating Ford's move to appoint Taverner to head the OPP. His report is expected in the coming weeks. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
An assault rifle, handguns, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition, just some of the items seized by Toronto police during raids last week. As Ali Chiasson shows us, investigators are saying tonight they feel they've put a significant dent in an organized crime ring.
The drugs and guns are on display at Toronto Police Headquarters now. How they got here speaks to the drug traffickers' ingenuity. Here's Inspector Steve Watts with the drug squad.
We're dealing with vehicles that utilize traps. It's actually custom-built furniture. It can be an end table. It can be a coffee table. Usually they're operated by magnets. A series of magnets operate the lids, and it's just essentially a false lid and a false bottom and a piece of just routine house furniture, but it's all custom made.
$100,000 worth of heroin, $250,000 in cocaine, $300,000 in fentanyl. Inspector Watts says Project Moses made a big dent in the drug trade across the GTA.
Of specific concern to me with this table is the amount of firearms in front of me that were all seized primarily from, a couple locations. This here on the table in front of you is reality, so my people are faced with going into search warrants, loaded weapons. The majority of these weapons, at least some of them were fully loaded. The mags were loaded. So you're looking at significant officer safety concerns.
This is allegedly the haul linked to 3 men, only one of whom has been arrested.
The 3 individuals are all going to be, a lot of them jointly charged. I don't want to go through all of them because I'll be up here for like 20 minutes, but I can say it's in excess of, in terms of firearm charges, in excess, all 3 individuals, in excess of 27 firearm charges.
Nicholas Ortega of Ottawa was arrested last week. Vincent Wong and Daniel Siu are still wanted men. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead, a new shelter is opening up in Scarborough, and this one will be a little different. accepting more than just homeless youth. Details coming up a little later. Fishing in February, it's an annual family day tradition for one man. The catch, he takes newcomers along with him and shows them how to reel in some fun this winter, hoping to get them hooked. Lisa Shing takes the bait.
We're here at Island Lake Conservation Area in Orangeville, and we're ready to ice fish.
Hi, my name is Kenneth C. I'm a teacher, and I've been fishing for about 20 years. The ice right now, it's probably 16 inches, I think. Maybe even a little more. Right now is thick enough to drive a car onto the lake, although I don't always recommend it. It's pretty simple to drill a hole. You just put the auger down.
Woo! This is a workout. We would usually want all this snow and ice to be clear from the hole, otherwise it'll affect the line. I'm just putting on the bell here at the tip of the rod so that when the fish bite, we can hear. Sometimes, before we get a second rod ready, we'll already have a fish on one of them. But sometimes, we fish all day. And now, we wait.
I'm Andrea Marastoni. I'm in grade 3 and I'm here for ice fishing.
Hi, my name is Stefano Marastoni. I'm coming from Italy, and this is something we do not have in Italy.
And it's good because it makes you be patient.
Are you patient?
No.
Our goal, hopefully, is for these new Canadians to learn, and then they in turn can take other new Canadians fishing.
Were you a new Canadian at first and then you learned from someone?
I came to Canada when I was 10 years old. Friends of mine took me fishing.
Why do you think it's so important to pass this tradition on?
I thought it would be nice to sort of pay back, give the opportunity to new Canadians to fish, because I had that opportunity. The fish is taking the line right now. Oh yeah, he's there. Yeah, you let go.
No!
You let go. You have to be quick,
Yeah.
Otherwise, sometimes they bite so hard and fast, they'll pull the rod down.
What is the fun in fishing if you don't catch anything?
It's still a moment where I take for myself, or I spend time with my son.
A lot of times it's just enjoying each other's company, being out with friends. And ice fishing is even better than just regular fishing, because as you can see when you look around, everybody can walk around on the ice, they can socialize and chat with each other. It's a really social activity.
It was a fun day, but I think they're still waiting for a fish to bite. Another thing you might not think of doing in February, going to the beach, but if you want to inject a little color into the season, that's where you need to head.
Down here, it's like a lot of like bright colors, like pinks and orange and yellow and green, and it's just really fun.
At this time of year when everything is gray and white and cold, it's nice to see so many people down here in the sun having fun and enjoying time with their families.
You are looking at winter stations, the design competition kicking off today at Woodbine Beach. Local and international teams are taking part, along with 2 Toronto schools. In all, 6 installations are on display, all inspired by a theme of migration.
A lot of Mexican people live here in Toronto. A lot of Mexican people live here in Canada, and that's the forest we are trying to represent in, well, in this case, with butterflies.
Our installation is called Above the Wall, and its intent is to contest the use of border walls to prevent migration and immigration.
We based our the project on a series of people walking towards something better, migrating basically. All these people are anonymous. You cannot see where they're coming from or who they are.
Winter Stations runs until April 1st. Ice fishing, art installations on the beach in February. See, Colette, we are embracing winter. We're not afraid of it.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Anything that you can do, anything to embrace it, to make it feel a little bit better when it comes to our winters, because they are long. So really nice to see that, whether or not those fish are biting or not. Now, earlier in the show, I was looking ahead at the next 10 days, the rest of February, and showing you that, most of our days are going to be above seasonal, and they will be about 80%. However, right now, we're in one of those situations where tonight and tomorrow, these are the ones that are below seasonal, and we have the extreme cold weather alert in place. These are the temperatures right now, -8 in Toronto. Markham, though, at -10, and Mississauga at -8. Then we factor the winds in, and this is the current wind chill at -16, and Markham at -18. So we do have extreme cold that we're seeing out there. Now, after this morning's snow, we've seen that disappear. We had all that sunshine. However, you can see in the lee of the lake still some of that snowfall, although that's even weakening, but that's to the south of us. Now, the next system, though, is going to be approaching, and because of it, Environment Canada has issued a special weather statement. So this is really for Wednesday, later in the day Wednesday for us here in the city and for the GTA. Overnight into Thursday, and there'll be snow first of all, but it's the freezing rain and the ice pellets that will pose the problem mostly, and then it turns over to rain as the temperature rises. We don't have a problem in terms of this into Tuesday. We're going to see sunshine through the day. Even Wednesday starts off okay, except the clouds moving in, and then as I move this through the day for the afternoon commute, likely be looking at some light snow, and then that changing over to that mix of ice pellets to freezing rain. Overnight tonight, your temperatures look like this, but it will feel like -23. Tomorrow afternoon, again, it'll be lovely to have the sunshine, but -3 to -5 for the highs. We should be closer to -1 at this time of year. Wednesday, we're going to see that mixed precipitation into Thursday morning. Then once it moves out, we're going to see the temperatures for the next few days after that, and that includes towards the weekend, a little bit above seasonal. So it's this next 24-hour period where we really have the cold conditions, Dwight.
I like that weekend, though. We need to talk more about that during the week. Thanks, Colette.
Yeah, you're welcome, Dwight.
If you guys are just chilling in your buddy's basement, you're all vaping, and one guy, buddy, gets too head-rocked and can't hit anymore because he's about to pass out, that's nicking out, you know what I mean?
Vaping is on the rise in middle and high schools, and that has more than just health officials worried. It's motivated some teens to make their peers aware of the dangers of e-cigarettes. We'll take you inside a classroom for one of their presentations next. There are over 2,000 young people estimated to be homeless in Scarborough. In about a month, the first and only emergency shelter for homeless youth will open. But there's something else that's unique about this shelter and transition home. It's not only for humans, but also for their canine companions.
We just want to open our doors to any teenager who is in trouble, who wants help, and is ready to do the work to get better. For me, my most proudest unique feature is the fact that this facility is going to have a dog kennel. It's under construction, but this is going to be a state-of-the-art dog kennel. We've all seen all kinds of young people. They spread a sleeping bag on the street and they're sitting there, and sometimes they're a couple and they always have dogs. Often those dogs are the only companion that these young people have on this planet, and they will not come in out of the cold, or they will not come in for help and leave their dog alone. It's going to have dog baths, individual glass dog cages. So we've created a situation where they can come in, bring their dog with them, and if they decide to move to the transition side, then what happens is there'll be a cage put in their room, and the kids and the dogs can all sleep in the same room. We're not judgmental here, right? We're here to help.
The number of teens who smoke e-cigarettes is growing, and so is the evidence that teens who vape are more likely to also smoke tobacco. Health Canada has launched a new awareness campaign, but some students are taking matters into their own hands, setting up a project to help educate other teens about the dangers of vaping. Karen Pauls explains.
How many chemicals are in a package of cigarettes and one cigar?
This grade 10 civic leadership class is practicing an anti-smoking lecture.
Do you guys really want this long?
Aimed at middle school students. Today, they're updating their presentation.
But what are we going to say? What's the message we want to get across to kids? Right?
They brought in an expert to tell them more about vaping, or e-cigarettes.
So there's 3 different kinds of vapes that we
Riley Farrell has been vaping since he was 13. Attracted by the cool factor,
like you see dudes on Instagram blowing like O's and doing all these tricks and having huge clouds.
Attracted also by the youth-oriented packaging and marketing.
So when kids look at it, they think, I want that. It's no different.
Farrell admits he's addicted, even though he knows it can't be good for him.
If you guys are just chilling in your buddy's basement, you're all vaping, and one buddy gets too head rocked and can't hit anymore because he's about to pass out, that's nicking out, you know what I mean?
Nicotine aside, the Lung Association and Health Canada don't recommend vaping for non-smokers because it can increase exposure to harmful substances found in e-juice.
Because you're getting that shortness of breath and it's messing up your lungs from inhaling that.
You have emphysema.
Sydney Tuck hopes if teens hear this message from their peers, they might just listen.
I know if I go into a middle school, I'll see kids in grade 7 with a vape.
It's increasingly on Health Canada's radar. It released this video.
That it's so enticing to kids with the design.
Meanwhile, Farrell says parents should also be educating themselves.
If you go into your son's room and it doesn't just smell like cologne or something, it smells like Fruity Pebbles or like flowers in there, you're going to obviously be like, hey, that's not his cologne.
Like other tobacco products, anyone under 18 can't legally buy e-cigarettes, but they're getting them from older siblings, friends, even parents, contributing to a new generation of nicotine addicts. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Never, ever in our wildest dreams did we ever think that this was going to go any further than a college musical.
Come from away, heads far away across the pond. The award-winning musical opened in England. That story coming up next. It took Toronto by storm. Now the hit musical Come From Away is delighting audiences in Britain. The crowd-pleasing show recounts the story of 5 tense days after 9/11 when families in Gander, Newfoundland took in dozens of stranded American passengers. Kayla Hounsel now with more from across the pond.
The middle of nowhere, Gander, Newfoundland. The town and surrounding communities and the people in them now on stage in London.
Can I get you in? There we go.
The producers have flown the real people across the Atlantic to meet the actors who portray them.
Never, ever in our wildest dreams did we ever think that this was going to go any further than a college musical.
When the 9/11 attacks closed U.S. airspace, 38 planes were diverted to Gander.
Well, we'll take down the toast.
For 5 days, nearly 7,000 come-from-aways became their guests. On the 10th anniversary of 9/11, Irene Sankoff and David Hine went to Gander to write a musical.
Telling a story about people overcoming their differences and about responding to tragedy with kindness and with shared humanity. I think that it's been important for us, but it feels like it's important to a lot of people.
They all agree the show is precisely accurate. Brian Mosier was a local television reporter.
When you see your words, word for word, with the pauses where you put them. Now, I don't know how much old Rogers tape they watched, apparently a lot.
The cast believes that accuracy is what stirs audiences' emotions, no matter how far removed they are from the actual events.
I think the people of London want to see themselves there. I think they look at that, and I think the reason that it's so overwhelming for everybody is because they want to believe that they would do the same thing.
9/11, they say, represented hatred, but 9/12 epitomized love. Kayla Hounsel, CBC News, London.
Check out this ice tower. It was inspired by the castle in the Disney film Frozen. After the break, how he did it and who he did it for. Next.
Family day for us, it means that we should spend a good time with our family, just hang out around and give them the feeling of family day, what family means to them and how should they value family in their own life.
It's quality time with these little guys that we don't often get when we work so hard.
Well, it's a great time to spend with the kids. We're busy
Monday to Friday, it's nice to have an extra day off where we can just hang out and build these relationships and memories with them.
I like those little polar skating helpers there. It was all about family down at Ontario Place this long weekend. The park has free skating by the lake until 10 tonight. The YMCA had a pop-up camp with marshmallows to roast by the bonfire. For those that don't like the cold, there was an indoor special effects workshop. Kids tried their hand at making, well, look at that. Ew, severed fingers for one. A retired Saskatoon architect is putting his skills to good use this winter, delighting children across the city. His inspiration, Elsa's castle from the movie Frozen. He spoke to CBC about his motivation and his method.
My name is Don Greer. I'm a retired architect, and for the fun of things, at wintertime I spend my time making ice sculptures. My father worked as a lineman with telephones, and one of the greatest fears that they had was the ice buildup. So I always knew that I could work with ice on building up on wire. And so I started making nativity scenes and that sort of thing out of the thing, using the wire to sculpt the frame that I wanted. Well, I have 3 granddaughters who love Elsa, and when the movie Frozen came out a few years ago, it was in ice, and of course the lights sort of kind of went on. I says, I think I can do that. So I started studying over the last few years, did a lot of little sketches. They said, Elsa's castle. They knew what it was. So there was people by here last night when they were out front, and there was 2 little girls there and their mother, and she said, you don't know how happy you made some girls. So it was just, it touched my heart. And so I just keep doing it.
Pretty cool when Granddad's an architect and could do stuff like that. That's wonderful. Ice sculptures in our city safe tonight. Not melting.
They're safe tonight, but you know, the mess that we have been seeing, we're going to see a repeat of that as we head into Wednesday. So safe tonight because we have the extreme cold conditions tonight and tomorrow. Then Wednesday, this next storm comes in, snow, then ice pellets, freezing rain, and then rain. Sloppy once again, Dwight. That's February. Sloppy.
We've been getting it all month, so we should be used to it. That's it for us for tonight. Thank you for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.